Hey everybody, how are you doing? I hope you are beginning, or depending on when you view this, ending a very happy weekend where you can actually rest and, I don't know, chill a little bit, feel like a human being, watch a movie, take a walk, do something good without breathing on your fellows. Anyway, please be taking care of yourselves, seriously. I care, and so do the rest of us. Don't spread this thing, and be good to yourself, even in the midst of this stress. Just a few comments on the video, on the stuff that you guys read and talked about today in your paragraphs. First off, this notion of popular sovereignty. It seems so good. Stephen Douglas in the Lincoln-Douglas debates seems to want the people to decide, whereas Lincoln, oddly enough, seems not to want to let the people decide whether to have slavery in a territory. And that seems odd. But, of course, things get a little bit clearer once they make their points known. For one thing, Stephen Douglas defines the people as definitely not black people. He says that in his most explicit terms in his debate. Whereas Lincoln does define the people as African Americans as well as white. But the other question is, what things are good to let people decide? Now, that sounds like an undemocratic thing, but it's actually something that has to do with rights. So, for instance, I think that the people should be able to decide, I don't know, how late the park stays open in my town. It makes sense, right? More crime after 10 o'clock, you want to limit liability, that kind of thing. On the other hand, what if the people decide that they should steal my phone? If they decide by a majority assent, maybe they should. What if then the people decide that they should be able to enslave me? Should that be something that the people get to decide? And Lincoln thinks it's not. For him, some things aren't about democracy, as fervent a believer as he was in it. For some things are about rights. So that's kind of the debate that he and Douglas were having. The next thing that we're talking about is racism. Racism is crazy interesting. For one thing, Stephen Douglas was racist, but he also lived in Illinois where there was not slavery. He never owned a slave. He didn't want to own a slave. So why was he so concerned about allowing slavery to happen? What was going on with that? And why, on the other hand, were racist whites like Abraham Lincoln? And boy, if you didn't know he was racist before, reading what he says in the Lincoln-Douglas debates will help you see that he could definitely be racist. Why was he so concerned with ending slavery if he still didn't believe that African Americans should get equality? Why build or sacrifice your entire political career on the notion of African American freedom but not equality? That's kind of a weird idea, and it's going to be a problem for us as we move forward into the Civil War. I mean, think about it. Both men are arguing about what kind of future America can have. For Stephen Douglas, he's arguing that it's a future in which people get to do what they want. For Lincoln, it's a future where people live by rules and where no one else has an advantage over anyone else. Keep in mind, all sorts of racist, non-slave-holding white farmers cheered for what Lincoln said when he said that slavery is a wrong, unquestionably. And part of the reason that they thought that slavery was wrong was not just the morals of it, although that wasn't nothing. It was also the notion that if you are trying to move to Wisconsin and start up a farm, and a slaveholder is also moving to Wisconsin to start up a farm, that slaveholder will always have an advantage over you because the slaveholder doesn't have to pay his workers while you do. So that's part of the issue. These people, that was a kind of freedom for Lincoln's supporters just as much as slavery stopped a different kind of freedom. This, of course, leads us to the other question, the big question, the question that we're going to be pursuing over the next couple weeks. What was the Civil War actually about? That's essentially what your reading is about for Monday. You can tell from some of our sources today that John Brown certainly thought the Civil War was and should be about slavery. And what we will find in a twisted way is that the South Carolina secessionists, the first people to secede from the Union, they also thought the Civil War should be about slavery. They're pretty clear about it. And if they're not clear, check out what Alexander Stephens has to say in his famous Cornerstone speech. Meanwhile, if you'll read Lincoln's first inaugural, he will say that the war is not about slavery. He will say that the war is about the Union, and that slavery, you're going to be interested to see what he says about slavery there. So I want you to think, what do the southern states think that they are protecting by seceding? Meanwhile, what do the northern states, what does the Union think they are protecting by insisting on going to war? There was a loud voice in the Union that was against the war entirely. Why? Why were they okay with it? And why did Lincoln prevail in keeping it going? So we start the Civil War on Monday. Things get fun. This is where Lincoln's speeches get really good. The first inaugural, this is where he gives the better angels of our nature idea that still sticks with us. So read it, enjoy it, but mostly figure out what he's saying about the war. What kind of a war is it? All right, thank you. Have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves and your families. Bye.